Now, across the world, preparations for ushering in the new year are in full swing, but fearing some kind of a security threat, administrations across the Western world are ramping up safety measures for New Year Eve celebrations. Now, dealing with ghosts of New Year's past, the police in Germany's capital are preparing for any unforeseen circumstances. After violence, remember, had broken out last year, the incident left 18 police officers injured and 103 other people had been arrested.
Die Bilder aus dem letzten Jahr, die kennen wir alle, aber nicht nur die Erfahrung, die Analyse des Einsatzes des letzten Jahreswechsels sind in unsere Einsatzplanung eingeflossen, sondern natürlich auch die aktuellen Entwicklungen seit dem 7. Oktober, die Erfahrungen mit Halloween, sodass wir mit einem deutlich höheren Kräfteansatz.
Now, France is also deploying large groups of police and soldiers owing to very high potential for terror threats facing the country. Officials have warned of the growing risk of possible terror attacks as a spillover of the Israel-Gaza war.
I have therefore asked for the mobilization of over 90,000 police and gendarmes plus 5,000 soldiers from Operation Sentinel. There will also be tens of thousands of firefighters as the civil security will be particularly mobilized.
Now, other European nations such as Austria have also increased security, while Sweden has remained on high alert since summer. The terror threat level in the Netherlands was raised last week, with security services warning that terrorist groups such as the ISIS and Al-Qaeda could use the conflicts in the Middle East to encourage attacks in the West. Now, earlier this month, a Hamas terror plot across Europe had been thwarted by the police. 7 suspected terrorists said to be acting in Hamas's name were arrested during raids in Germany, Denmark and the Netherlands. Meanwhile, the Big Apple, the New York Police Department and other security officials are preparing to secure the landmark Times Square, where thousands gather for New Year Eve celebration. The police and local administration will also be using drone surveillance to monitor the area on Sunday.
We will be out here with our canines, our horsebacks, our drones, our helicopters, our boats. The full complement of our public safety apparatus will be on display. Now, we're urging everyone, if you are here for the first time, you know you're not going to drive during this weekend. Public transportation is open. We are really encouraging everyone to use mass transit.
And also to give us more perspective on this, we're being joined by Mr. David Dunn, who's a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham, and he's joining us live on this broadcast. Now, Professor Dunn, this is something that I'm pretty sure the security agencies around the world are looking at very closely. Tomorrow night, people will be out in big numbers to celebrate and ring in the year 2024. But the administration would also be looking at the New Year's parties with some security concerns. What's your take on this?
Well, this has always been a feature of mass events like this. I remember some years ago myself, before 9/11, spending New Year's Eve in Times Square, and there were huge numbers of police because there are huge numbers of people. In France, they expect 1.5 million people to throng the Champs-Élysées, and the centre of Berlin, London are the same. So I think whenever you have that many people, you have to be concerned about all levels of security, from pickpockets to fights, to the prospect of terrorist activities. But of course, in this particular situation, we have had Western intelligence agencies saying for the last 2 or 3 months that there is a heightened threat of Islamic terrorism from ISIS or Al-Qaeda affiliates, or indeed just individuals disgruntled by the West's support for Israel over the war in Gaza.
You know, and also in terms of what's been happening in places such as Germany and in Netherlands, for instance, in Amsterdam, you know, purchasing pyrotechniques is said to be banned, but they can be used during New Year Eve celebrations. What happened last year in Berlin was the rioting where fireworks were deliberately used by these miscreants on the police personnel, which resulted in many injuries. Can, realistically speaking, these kind of unfortunate events be prevented during New Year parties?
Well, I think that's partly why they're telling us that there are going to be so many police there. It's partly to give assurances to the public, but also to try and deter those miscreants from trying to arrive armed with fireworks and the like. If they saturate the place with police, and they create entry point control, then it reduces the prospects of anyone being able to do anything like what happened in Berlin last year. So it's about actually deterring those activities, preparing for those activities, and being ready to respond to those activities should they occur. So it's a major operation across most large Western cities as a consequence of that threat level.
Right. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Dan, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Always a pleasure.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.